Hi there. I'm here today with Patricia Colley. Hi, Patricia. How's it going?
Hi, Katie. It's going great.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. I'd love to give our attendees a chance to get to know you. You're our applied improv workshop leader, and I'm particularly really excited to talk with you because improv is kind of an area of passion for me, and I think it's really interesting to see how it will apply to the attendees talking about experience design. So to kind of backtrack, though, I know that you have done some work with Microsoft and Quark and Sapient. So can you tell me a little bit about how you went from experience in developing software tools and products to kind of where you're at now in the strategic side?
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I started my career when our industry was really just being born. So I started out as a pure designer, working in my little ivory tower. I was very happy just doing design on my own. But uh, the more complex our projects became, the more integrated into business and even into our social fabric. Things became more complex. They required a little bit more perspective and collaboration, and a little bit more expansive approach to things. I think also because we were sort of drawn to the front of the room in front of these executives, we were being asked to solve higher order problems, more strategic problems, by the definition of how our business was evolving. So I think it's a natural progression and something that we strive to do. I think we all want to be great designers and do interesting work, but there's this other element to it that's become increasingly more important and essential to our role.
Great, yeah. So now you're kind of looking at helping organizations make really meaningful change. What do you see as being some of the key problems or challenges that businesses come up against?
Well, I think it's anytime you're talking about change, I think self-awareness is the most important thing. So you have to know what you're looking at. You have to know really where you are. And I think oftentimes companies come to us, clients come to us, or even if we're working internally, teams come to us and managers come to us with a problem. And part of what we do is we help to frame that problem. And we do that by reflecting back to them the stories that they've told us and by helping them to maybe fill in the gaps or clarify the story where that seems to be a little unclear or muddled. And so I think, storytelling obviously is an essential piece of what we do, not only as designers in presenting design, but also in getting people on board and aligned in the same direction in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So I think that's a pretty essential part of it. I think there's a lot of other things too. I think we have to look at capability maturity. I think we have to look at where not just capability maturity in ourselves, but also the company itself. What kind of change are they ready for? What kind of change are they capable of? Where is the product if we're working on a product in its life cycle? So I think it all has to be contextual to the reality of what's happening in the room and the present moment. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about improv is that it takes you out of the abstract, and we're so in our heads, it takes you out of the abstract and into the reality of what's actually happening in the moment and where you can go from here and bringing people along with you, which is so important as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about improv a little bit more, actually. I know you talk about game storming a little bit. How do improv and game storming techniques kind of drive and facilitate that collaboration and, as you say, assessing kind of maturity for companies?
I think it just takes us right back into the human element of things. It's so easy for us in a process, and we've got our roles and everything sort of structured. But at the end of the day, it really is about people connecting with other people and co-creating a narrative, a reality, if you will, that can get us moving in the same direction. I think that's really important, and I think that game storming techniques and improvisation techniques help us to connect with each other. They help us to develop those stories together and to really create a reality in which we can all sort of operate and work together to make something new.
Sure, sure.
So that's.
So looking kind of just beyond the initial alignment and getting everyone on the same page, how is what you're doing really facilitating, you know, delightful experiences?
Oh, well, I think first of all, when people feel connected and they feel a part of something, I think that that is delightful. I think another thing that's great about improv is that it helps us to remember to be positive and good natured and to be empathetic and to really listen to each other more deeply. And I think that that in itself, that kind of interaction is much more delightful than just a sort of divide and conquer, you know, the way we have a tendency. Sometimes collaboration becomes delegation, and that's not as inclusive. It's not as fulfilling, I think, for people. So I think in that way, and it's just fun too. It's fun to play together, and I think we forget the purpose and importance of play in the creative process.
Absolutely. That was kind of my initial thought. You know, improv is by nature just a fun activity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but kind of looking beyond that, what was your aha moment of thinking, okay, improv clearly just ties into what we're trying to do and it can really help solve some meaningful issues?
Oh yeah, definitely. It isn't just fun. I think you're absolutely right there. One of the great things that it can do, again, with storytelling, when we're externalizing stories, when we're acting things out, it takes it outside of our minds and it allows other people to witness what that story is and to participate and to reflect on that story. There are applied improv has far-reaching implications. There are people that are using it for conflict resolution, for therapy. There's a long history of theater as therapeutic exercise, theater of the oppressed, bringing political factions together, those kinds of things. I think it's about, again, it goes back to empathy. It goes back to looking at the same scene in the same way can allow you to stop the action, to consider what you're actually seeing in a different light, to be able to see someone else's point of view. Uh, there are a couple of really great applications for design. One of them is you can actually do role play and role reversal for project teams, or if you're having a problem with a challenging client, you can get together with another designer and play devil's advocate, play role reversal, and try out different things to see if there are some ways that you can get coached into working with the client more effectively. That's a simple example. Another example would be taking, I do what I call human prototyping. So you can actually take any system or any process, and you have people uh, arranged in the room as different parts of that process or different touch points in a journey. And then you walk someone through that process, and they have a dialogue with the people who are representing those touch points or those functional components. And it can be very enlightening of just what you can see in terms of what's actually happening. It externalizes it in a way that it's not I'm understanding an abstract idea of what your abstract idea is. It's we're looking at the same thing and we can go, oh wait, I just noticed this little detail. Another thing that's really powerful is collaborative storytelling. Uh, Actually telling a story one word at a time or one sentence at a time together to construct a narrative and to see the ways in which we do that well and maybe not so well as well. And looking at how we show up and how we listen to other people and what that narrative can be. I actually did a workshop where we did that. There was a line of people. We did this sort of line at a time story, discussing how a child would experience an online. It was a kind of a designer site where they can design their own purses, and there was a community aspect to it. And this designer was kind of like, well, I'm trying to solve this one problem with the design, and I'm a little stumped. So we got a bunch of people together. We told this story together as a group, and all of a sudden there are all these amazing ideas that just spontaneously popped into people's heads of how a child would actually enjoy and what they would want to do with this product. And the guy, he was just amazed that it actually broke through his block of how to serve this population, how to get this product to really do what kids would want it to do.
That's really cool. I mean, I think so. What I'm hearing is that it not only really helps people crystallize in their own minds, kind of as they're expressing out loud what they're actually thinking, but then also helps kind of everyone in the room see what they're explaining and what they're focusing on. So that's
Yeah.
really, and I think that's really going to be very useful and kind of cool to see play out in the Delight workshop
Hmm.
venue because we're going to have so many different people across different verticals and different disciplines. As you know, we're going to see people from the business side, the design side, the marketing side.
Hmm.
What can attendees expect to take away from your workshop?
Well, aside from a smile on their face, I think they'll have an experience of working with a group of total strangers to build something together, whether that's a narrative or an idea or a product feature, uh, whatever we choose to do in that workshop. You'll be able to get an experience of working with people across diverse backgrounds that maybe you just met, and see how you show up and see how they show up for you. And when you all come at it with the same attitude of, hey, we're in this together, uh, let's play. Let's see what we can do together. Let's see what's possible rather than this kind of protectionism that we tend to have sometimes. So they'll have a direct experience of collaborating with other people. They'll have an experience of some tools and techniques and maybe some philosophies that they can take back to their workplace and try out with their teams.
That's very cool. I'm excited to see that. As I mentioned, improv I think is already cool kind of on its own, and just to see it in that different context is going to be really exciting.
Mhm.
So what are you looking forward to about Delight?
Oh gosh, you've got a great lineup of speakers. I could watch Genevieve Bell talk about paint dry, and I would be fascinated. Uh, and the beautiful thing,
The accent makes it so fun too, right?
yes, absolutely, and she's just got such a great sense of humor.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the beautiful things about all of these events is the water cooler talks. Just being able to walk up to somebody and strike up a conversation about something that's interesting to you, in a very improvisational way. I think that's what improv is about: is taking a risk and reaching out and connecting with someone to see what's possible together. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the essence of what I love about going to these events.
Absolutely. And I think you're one of the lucky ones because you're already here in Portland. So you'll definitely be here for all of the fun after hours networking things. Our opening night reception is still yet to be announced, but I think that'll be a really fun one to see people interact at.
Very cool. I'm looking
Excellent.
forward to it.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing you speak and seeing you in a few months. And thank you so much, Patricia, for your time today, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you. See you.